everyone, it's I, Wacky Anime What If here to present you with What If Issei Had the Yandere Gear? Part 1. Let's get into this. Currently, Issei Hyodo is walking to Kyohai. He honestly has the worst luck, or as he likes to call it, pervert luck. He hates it so much because it got him kicked out of 3 separate schools for what was out of his control, really. You see, his previous school, he was minding his own business like any other student. He left his class to go to his next class, which was down the stairs. He was walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden, he's tripped. He was falling down the stairs, and he thought he landed on the ground, but he started thinking, this is way too soft to be the ground. So he tried to pick himself up, put his hand on what he thought was the ground, and he heard the weirdest sound. And he looked upwards and saw that it was his teacher. So right after that happened, he said, "Oh, well, this is awkward." She immediately grabbed him by the hand, slapped him, called him a pervert, and literally dragged him to the principal's office. Since this isn't the first time something like this happened, they immediately expelled him and put harassment as the reason for his expulsion. They also put that on his record, so right when he got to Kyo a week ago, right when he went to Kyohai, all the females immediately hated his guts. He got jumped almost every day, so that was quite bad. So he's walking to the school very nervous. He's walking very slowly because he really doesn't want to go to that school. He's asked his parents multiple times, but they say, "Deal with it, pervert," and then they proceed to bang. Which is kind of quite hypocritical, is what Issei's thinking while walking. Right when he walks halfway to the school, he sees this one peculiar girl. She has pink hair, pink eyes, and flawless skin, apparently. And her uniform doesn't look like a Kyohai uniform. But she seems to be going to the direction of Kyohai, but looks around a lot. Honestly, this confused him. He thought that maybe, just maybe, she might be lost. So he walked towards her and asked, "Hey, are you a new student at Kyohai?" Immediately she looked at him and said, "Yes I am. My name's Yunagasai. What's yours?" Immediately he said, "My name's Issei Hyodo. Would you like me to escort you to the school?" He says that. Immediately she says, "Yeah, that would be nice." She asked him to escort her to the school. He walks towards the school and asks if she'd like him to also give her a tour of the school, which she promptly agreed to. While she was following him to the direction of the school, Issei started thinking in his head, something feels off about this chick. He looks behind and looks at her with a few glances, and then he realizes, hold up, she's in front of me now, and she's walking the direction of the school, which I was supposed to show her, so hold up, she already knows where it is. Why am I helping her? Then he just says out loud, "Wait, you know where the school is? Why am I directing you to the school if you already know what it is?" She immediately grabs his hand and says, "Don't ask questions, please," and just basically drags him to the school. And Issei, in his mind's like, "Oh, I done fucked up." In his mind, Issei has the moment where someone says, at that moment, "You know, you have just fucked up." He was getting dragged all the way into the school. Like, right as soon as they were in front of the school gates and walked through, every female had hateful glares directed at Issei. And Issei just, in his head, was like, "Oh, fuck." He says that out loud. And Yuno looks at him, tilts her head, and says, What's happening?" As all the females were surrounding Issei. 4 females were dragging Yuno off of Issei, and one of them said, "Hey, look, the pervert's going after another one." when Issei only tried to show people around the school previously. It's in his kind nature, but they assume that he's trying to assault them. So he gets beaten up a lot. That's why he's kind of reluctant to help her. So as four females were trying to drag off Yuno's grip strength was quite impressive and was crushing Issei's hand. Issei swore he heard a pop or a crack, and he was like, "Oh my god, that's my fapping hand. Please don't break." So he looks towards her and says, "Could you let go, please?" She loosens the grip and finally lets go. And then the four basically just take off with her. Right after that happens, Issei looks to all the females that are surrounding him, which are 10, and immediately, when that happens, they look at him with the most hateful glare. Like, one of them just says, "You about to get jumped." The other one looks at him and just has the look about, "We about to end this man's whole career." And Issei just, like, points his hand up to the sky and says, "Wait a minute. Stop. Wait a minute. I'm going to show you my favorite technique. Secret technique." And then he goes into a fighting stance. And all of them are ready to beat his ass. They're all in fighting stances too. And he says, "It's called Nigarandeyu." He starts running. He runs right through the crowd and goes all the way to the school as quickly as possible, ignoring every single person that's giving him hateful glares, while they're also joining in on chasing him. He drops his phone, and it lands next to a Yuno Gasai. She picks up the phone and pockets it. Right when she pockets the phone, she immediately does not get caught. She just walks away towards her classroom, which is coincidentally the same classroom as Issei Hyodo. So when Issei runs all the way up to his classroom, up the stairs, he goes to the classroom door, opens it immediately, and slams it as hard as possible in the face of all the people that was chasing him. And then he's just putting the middle fingers directly on the outside of the glass, saying, "Fuck you, you didn't get me. Maybe next time, little bitch." And as soon as he said that, he felt a sinister aura behind him. He looks slightly behind him, and he sees the entire Kendo squad with their wooden katanas out, and one of them says, "Surprise, motherfucker," in a manly voice, and Issei says, "Oh, please don't hurt me." And one of them says, "Ha, no." They immediately start to beat him with wooden swords. He's literally on the ground, getting beaten up. His legs were hurt quite badly. Actually, he had a few fractures from when the kendo swords hit him, considering they were quite strong. One of them hit him in the kneecap, one hit him behind the knee, one hit him in the face, one hit him right under the eye and caused a little cut, which could have actually went directly into the eye. And the kendo girl knew that, but she didn't really care. The rest of them were consistently beating him while he's on the ground, in fetal position, mind you, and begging them to stop. It all finally stops when the teacher walks in. Once the teacher walks in, he does a glance at Issei who's getting beaten up by the kendo girls, and all he does is pull out his lunch and starts eating while watching. But after a while, the bell rings and the class starts, so he shoos them away, gives them a pat on the back and says, "Good job," and they sit down in their chairs, and immediately Issei gets up, bloodied and bruised, actual blood coughing out of his mouth, and right under his left eye, a cut that's bleeding out quite rapidly. But this isn't anything new for Issei. This has been happening for a whole week, and his parents aren't doing a thing. Because, as I say, he's a pervert, supposedly. But he's not. It's just really shitty luck. So he goes towards his desk, in the back, and sits down. Immediately when he sits down, he puts his head down. He starts to sob, but everyone just really isn't paying attention. They're looking to the front, directly at the teacher. The teacher says, "Well, we're about to introduce a new student today. Would you come on in, Miss Gasai?" As soon as the teacher says this, Yuno walks in, goes to the front of the board, writes her name down, and says, "My name is Yuno Gasai. Please take care of me. I'm a foreign exchange student." She bows to everyone, and all the guys had perverted grunts. And they were like, "She looks awesome." One of the guys was talking about feeling up her cans, and a few of the girls were giving quite awful glares to them. So, as soon as that was happening, Issei just didn't really care. He still had his head down. He didn't even check who that was. And he was still sobbing, which Yunagasai actually noticed this. So she asked, "What's wrong with the kid over there?" And immediately the teacher says, "Oh, don't mind him. He's a pervert." Then she recognizes the kid from the hair and says, "Isn't that Issei?" Right when she says this, everyone says, "Wait, do you know him? Did he do anything?" And she says, "No, he was just directing me to the school." "What happened?" She says, and right when she says this, all of them say, "Oh, well, you see, we were teaching him a lesson." As soon as I said this, she examines Issei by walking closer towards him, while everyone's just telling her not to go near him and trying to block her. One person actually was in front of Issei, trying to block the path to Issei. And immediately, all Yunagasai did was calmly place her bag down, walked towards him, and pimp slapped the person away. Literally, the pimp slap was so loud that 3 classrooms down could hear it. And everyone in the classroom was like, "Damn!" While that was happening, she continued walking. Issei, who could hear the footsteps, really just didn't care at this point, so he still kept his head down. Until he felt something on his head, which felt like a hand that was actually petting his head, which he thought was pretty weird. He looked upwards and saw Yunagasai, the girl that he ended up bringing earlier to the school. The one that, he was falsely accused of doing something to. He was kind of curious about what she's trying to do. She just looks at him and is quite shocked because he's beaten and bruised. There's numerous bruises on his face, tons on his arms, and a few cuts, actually. She could see directly on his neck, and the worst part about it, there's a cut underneath his eye, barely missing it. She's quite disgusted with everyone about what they're doing to him. But there's something inside her that says to do something different. So she looks towards everyone and merely utters a few words, which terrify everyone. She says, "Next time that you guys do anything to him, I'll do it double to you." Right when she said this, some people in class were like, "No, you can't," and one of them went up towards her. They actually tried to attack her. Right when they tried to, all that she did was merely pimp slap her. They pimp slapped her, but they immediately regretted it. All she did was use the momentum of the slap, spin her leg around, and spin kick the absolute shit out of this man. This man's whole career got ended. He flew to the side of the class and almost fell out the window. But all that he did was grab the back of her shirt and yeeted him back in the classroom before he could fall out, and then proceeded to mount him and beat the absolute shit out of him. And right when that was happening, Issei was watching in wonder. It was quite amusing, actually. And right when that was happening, apparently, he was really pissed because, well, he wasn't the one doing this. He was kind of pissed about that. But he was actually very, very surprised that she was defending him. So he was actually clapping, saying, "You go. I wish I had some popcorn," was what he said. Then he goes to the front desk, grabs the teacher's rest of the lunch, and starts eating it. While the teacher looks at him and says, "That was my lunch." And then he looks at him and says, "It's mine now, John." Immediately the teacher says, "Who gave you permission to call my name?" And Issei just said, "Well, who gave you permission to say that I actually do give a fuck?" And that's where I'm going to end What If Issei Had the Yandere gear.